guys are a service-based organization. Steve Carr and I go back 30 some years. Steve knew me when I had my company. I think it's Shelby. You guys need to mute. There we go. So we had a back office service back in the late 80s and 90s, and it was really an attraction for talent. And I can't tell you how important I feel you guys are to the organization and to being able to deliver on the promises the company has for the agents. So today, when I was asked to speak to you, I got thinking, what do I want to share? And so I've got like 3 areas I want to share with you today, but I want to close with some technique. I am a skill and technique person. So I'm going to close with some techniques that you guys might be able to utilize in your interactions with people. And as I go through this, as Carrie said, don't be afraid to ask a question, throw it in chat. I'm going to switch back and forth from my screen, sharing my screen, to looking at everybody. So either put it into chat, or whenever I come back for questions, just unmute and ask questions. Do not hesitate, guys. There's no bad question, and nothing makes me happier than to get to interact with you folks. So I'm going to take you to my screen. That's not the screen I want to take you to. See if I can get it right this time. There we go. So to get started here, as I was just talking to you guys, how I feel the service support staff of a real estate organization is the heart and soul. But I want to talk about the essential role that you play. I don't know the tenure of everybody here, so if I'm a little elementary for some of you, forgive me. But a real estate agent, to make the decision to go into an unstructured, commission-based business takes a certain individual. And that certain individual has some quirks that we have to deal with as service people. And one of the things that I always shared with my service staff was that you guys are where the rubber meets the road. You see the agent and interact with the agent usually before any other leaders do. And that essential role that you play in my belief system is, if we can be for them emotionally. And what I mean by that is, they have a deal fall apart. I mean, they go off the deep end sometimes, and we got to be careful with that. You have that opportunity to be that bright light whenever they've gone off that deep end. Like I said, I shared with my team that I want an agent, when something goes wrong, to have a natural emotional response, to come to the office, to come back to the team. If that's not the feeling of attraction, they do bad things like go home and stop working, go off with a friend and consider other things. So I always said, if we can create the environment where every time something goes bad, they have this desire to come to us. They have this desire to come and maybe share, maybe ask for help. And if it's out of our pay grade, if they're talking about something that they need a leader higher up the chain, I always said, just refer them up. Say, hey, let me get a hold of Dan or Greg or Mike. And that way we were always not only giving them the service we promised, but we were creating that emotional need that they have to be in that position in the first place. Again, if you've been around them long enough, there's a whole range of emotion inside a real estate agent. So you guys play quite an essential role in that happening. When I was speaking to Carrie, I said, I always talk to agents about the market. I'm a finance guy. I'm a economics kind of geek, and I keep a close eye on all of what happens in the marketplace. So I'm going to share with you what I've been sharing with my consulting clients and agents all over the world, actually, because you should be excited about where we are in the market right now. So if we go back to the beginning of the pandemic, the federal government ended up dropping over $10 trillion into the marketplace. So in April, I shared with all my clients, I said, guys, $10 trillion is half of the GDP, gross domestic product, of the United States. So in a matter of 5 weeks, we dumped half of the productivity of the United States into the market. This time around, folks, we were the recipients. In the financial crisis, the banks were the recipients of stimulus. Green energy has been the recipient of stimulus. This time around, it was us. And I shared with all of my customers, I said, guys, get ready. We are going to get a high tide. We're going to have about 18 months of an amazing marketplace. Well, shortly after they did that, it drove the interest rates down to a never before. I mean, you can get a 30-year mortgage in the twos. That has never happened. That is what I call a hedge for our marketplace. Even though there's a pandemic, even though there's some employment challenges, you actually have people sitting there going, I can't miss out on this opportunity to go get a 2-point-something% mortgage. I've got to do something. So that's generating all that urgency out there. But inventory is low. Now, again, you guys are where the rubber meets the road. I want to tell you Dan's inventory myth. Agents keep saying there's no inventory. Guys, we're up double digits in transactions across the nation. There is not an inventory problem. There is a focus problem on the part of a real estate agent, because about 80% of agents chase buyers and 20% are hardcore listing agents. We are in a one-to-one market. We don't have a buyer's market. We don't have a seller's market. What we have as real estate professionals and a real estate company is one-to-one. You can't have a transaction unless you have a listing, you have a sale. So, a listing and a buyer. So when people say inventory is low, but we're increasing the number of transactions we're doing, what they miss out on is listings are increasing as well. The problem is we're just not going after them all the time. So yes, listing inventory is low, but it's not gone or it's not impossible. It's just we don't focus on it because we have this massive buyers. So most agents would rather do the lead gen game than go do the list game. Now, I share with agents all the time, buyer agents are like the general practitioner in the doctor arena in the industry. Listing agents are like the cardiac surgeon. There's a little more skills needed, a little more focus needed, a little more time and learning needed. But listing agents have a sustainable career. Companies that have a lot of listings have a sustainable company. So when you hear people say listings, there's no listings out there, you can simply ask them a question and say, if there's no listings, how do we keep selling property? And that will blow their mind, because they'll go, well, there had to be a listing if we had a transaction. So that means let's not lose sight of the importance of inventory. Then we've got unemployment, which is improving. The numbers keep getting better and better. I just read yesterday that there's going to be some adjustments to the third quarter, and it's going to adjust up. That the pandemic hasn't hit businesses as hard as the experts thought. And all of that's going to generate opportunity again, generate activity again that we have to be prepared for. What does this mean at the end of the day is a growth opportunity. A growth opportunity for our organization, for our individual agents, as long as we stay focused. I have a little Danism I share with agents as well. I share with them, guys, if you will work when you work, play when you play, and stop confusing the two, you'll get a lot more done. Work when you work, play when you play, and don't confuse the two. Agents have a tendency to work their butts off and start to feel burned out, so they want to play a little. Well, they start playing a little when they should work. Then they have time off, and they're supposed to take time off, and they take time off, but they don't take time off because they feel guilty. So when they're supposed to be playing, they work. And we have this hot mess of an agent. I try to get them to understand, if you will work and only work when you work, and play and only play when you play, you can take advantage of this growth opportunity. But if we never give ourselves that opportunity, we'll only get a little better. We won't take full advantage of it. Now, your interactions, ladies and gentlemen, with the marketplace in the time of a pandemic is critical. Communication is the key, and that is the techniques that I'm going to give you at the end here to share with you. But when we talk about having a pandemic in our marketplace, there is a wide range of emotion that we have to keep in mind when we plan how we engage people. I like to show this graph here, and the graph goes like this. If we looked at the emotion of individuals with the pandemic, we go from the left side of some people are paralyzed. They just can't act. They're afraid, they're paralyzed, and therefore they're not doing things they should do. And we go all the way over to the right where we have some people that go, this is stupid. Why are we doing this? This is ridiculous. It's the flu, for God's sakes. Now, everyone on this Zoom call is somewhere on that list. You might be in the middle, in between. You might be a little fearful, or you might be like, why are we doing this? Here's the challenge. Wherever you fall on this is how you will respond and deal with people. The problem is if the person you're working with is opposite of you, you will have a miscommunication. You will have challenges. So I'm going to tell you a quick story about how I figured this out back in April. May in Florida, golf was an essential thing, so we could golf. I had a very good friend of 35 years that since I've been in the real estate industry, 33 years, we've played golf, we've hung out. He's in the mortgage industry. We decided to play golf. I show up, get the cart. They put us in separate carts to social distance. He pulls in, I go to see him. Now, this is before a mask mandate or anything like that. And as I pulled up, he gets out of the car. Now, if I had to put him on this chart, guys, I would have put him on, this is crazy, stupid, why are we doing it? He gets out, I go to hand him the key for his cart, and he takes a step back from me. And I was like, wow, that's weird. He takes the cart, I drive back over, he comes over with his clubs, gets his cart. We go in to get some beer for the round of golf. And as he goes in, he puts a mask on, he takes out and opens a sanitary wipe and opens the door. I'm like, wow, this is not the guy I know. We go get the beer. Now, if I was a jerk, if I had no emotional IQ, I would have busted his chops. But since I'm a trainer and consultant, I should have a little bit of emotional IQ, a little self-awareness. So as we got to the first tee, it was just the two of us. Instead of getting on him about being hypersensitive about this pandemic, I asked a question. I said, Ron, it's been a while since we saw each other. Share with me, man, how is COVID affecting you and your family? And here's what he said to me. He said, Dan, I don't know if you know this, but my wife is on 2 immune suppressant drugs for a blood disorder she has. And I am scared to death that I'm going to catch this, bring it home, and kill my wife. I want you to think about the power of that feeling right there. Here's a guy that thinks this is crazy. Why are we doing it? But because his wife's immune suppressed, he's walking around scared to death. He'll bring it home and kill his wife. So how do I deal with him? Now think about this. If I would have busted his chops, he would have avoided me, maybe stopped hanging out with me going, Dan could be a trouble. He doesn't take this serious. But on the other side of the scale, if he was, this is crazy stupid, and I was paralyzed, would he want to do business with me as well? So we have protocols, we have things we should follow, but the greatest question you can ask someone you're uncertain is simply ask them, how's COVID affecting you and your family? And let them talk. People need to talk. Then you'll know how to deal with the person and you'll be able to communicate more effectively. Because at the end of the day, wherever you are on this chart, your brain is trying to cope, trying to say, I'm safe, I'm okay, I can move forward. Where we sit as a service provider, we can help people start to find that coping mechanism to be able to move forward. But if we are tone deaf to it, we might actually create more problems than we create solutions. So a little something to think about. All this drives people to be in one of two methods, guys. It puts an agent either in survival mode. What does survival mode mean? Survival means waiting for something to happen, looking for the easy route, being paralyzed, complaining sometimes, blaming things. That's a survival mode. And then you have people that are in a growth mode. They're proactive, they're creative, they're out there doing things. They're finding a way to leverage the actual protocols and things to be effective. I take you back to the chart, guys. The people in survival mode haven't found a way to cope yet, to step out and take advantage of this current opportunity. So at the end of the day, you guys can help by understanding and engaging in a way that allows people to maybe understand where they are with their fears, maybe listen a little closer to how they have to share something so you can deliver your services in a way that they feel is safe. But if we're blind to it, we can accidentally drive someone in survival mode home and they're paralyzed and we don't get business from them. Or you can create fear in someone who's in a growth mode. So we got to be careful there. Now, I want to just pause for a second and see if you guys got any questions. Again, just unmute and throw them at me if you got thoughts or questions. But I want to share with you something us in real estate call the real estate prayer. If you've been around an agent, or if you were once an agent, you know this prayer. Steve, wherever he is, he knows this prayer. The prayer goes like this. Dear God, please give me one more real estate boom. I promise I won't mess it up. Agents say that at the end of booms all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the greatest real estate boom ever in the United States. Don't let them mess it up. Keep their heads up. Keep them thinking about the opportunities and not the problems. And we can help these people. Remember, they're emotional creatures. They wouldn't be in a 100% commission situation. Any questions? Thoughts?
Hey, Dan, this is Carrie.
Yes.
I was remiss to give you a proper introduction, and I apologize. We have some new members of our family that haven't been around for very long, so I just kind of wanted to explain to those that are new. First of all, welcome to the family. We're happy to have you. And second, Dan is a trainer that's been, well, like he said, he knows Steve Carr, who's our president of Florida. They've known each other for a long time. We'll just leave it at that. We won't share numbers. But Dan has been coaching our agents. He's been coaching our managers. He's been associated with the Schmidt family companies for, is it 3 or 4 years now?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so he's really been communicating with our agents, with our managers, and that's why we wanted to bring him in to talk to the support staff, because we know our agents can't sell real estate without you guys. You're a vital part of this company, and we wanted you to get the same messaging that the agents and the managers have been getting. So that's why we asked Dan to come in. And that whole emotional range with the pandemic is very important, because you guys are dealing with it, and you're dealing with it not with just the agents, but with the consumers as well. So we appreciate you coming in, Dan, and hopefully that lets everybody that's newer to the family understand your connection with our company. But if anybody else has any questions or comments for Dan, feel free to unmute.
Anyone? Okay. I'll take that as a no then. Maybe I can get you to ask a question after this. Okay, so I told you I wanted to share some technique with you. And for me, this is all about our job, I guess you could say, is all about communication. Communication is so critical in how we deliver service. When I work with companies, like I said, I get to consult companies all over the place, and we look at the services. You know, I work with Tracy on understanding your marketing services and all the cool things that you guys bring from the resource center to the agents. And it gets frustrating, and her and I have shared frustrations of how, you know, these are amazing tools, but they don't engage in them. And the people that do engage in them, you know, have an easier life, you know, better opportunity. And the people that don't, why? Well, for me, it's all about communication. Communication helps people understand. It keeps us from having misunderstandings. And it also, I hate this one, when an agent will say, why didn't I know about that? When it's been clear that it's always been there. So it's all about communication. So here's my question, and I'm going to undo my screen just to see your faces here. So don't answer yet. Have you ever told an agent something and they didn't listen? I want everyone to open up their chat window right now and put a Y and hit enter if you've ever told an agent something that would have made a difference in their life and they didn't listen. They might have come back and even said the same question again. Oh, look at that. I've got 12 yeses from Jessica there. Guys, that is the communication challenge of our life. It's not just in business. It's not just in having a real estate organization. It is in life. So what I want to do is help you be better at that. So let me go back to my screen here. Great communication technique is what we need to be able to communicate better. So I'm going to, guys, I do this on purpose, you know, go back and forth from sharing my screen. It's kind of the little way of having some interaction to change what you're looking at. But I want to share a story with you. And I just want you to nod your head if you've ever been there. How many people have ever been in a relationship with your significant other or partner? They came home and they started ranting about something that was important to them. How many people on the screen right now, by raising your hand, knows that when your significant other comes home and starts ranting, you should listen to them? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you, in the middle of their rant, due to no fault of your own, your mind went somewhere else? Raise your hand. How many of you at the end of that rant had that little pesky person ranting go, are you listening to me? Raise your hand. And now you're in trouble, right? I mean, it happens to me. I love my wife with all my heart. I mean, I waited 32 years to find and marry my wife, but she'll come home and start ranting, and I'll look her right in the eye and I'll go, pay attention, pay attention. All of a sudden my brain goes, what time does the Penguin game come on? And all of a sudden she gets done ranting and she goes, are you listening to me? Now, what Carrie didn't share with you was my job before real estate. I was an undercover narcotics agent in law enforcement. I bought and sold drugs back during the Miami Vice days. I drove up and down the state of Florida in a Porsche and bought cocaine. So when you work undercover, you're pretty good on your feet. So my wife looks me right in the eye and goes, are you listening to me? And I smiled and I said, honey, of course I'm listening to you. Give her that straight look. But then she asked one more question. You guys know what that question was?
What did I say?
What did you say? And then I'm in trouble. And I'm in trouble because I didn't listen to her. Guys, I'm going to solve this problem for you today, but it's a habit in all of us. Okay. So let me go back to my screen. When we talk about communication, it is about people listening and understanding and being able to do something with that information. So when I say, why don't people listen, what we call it, or what my company, we've coined the phrase for this, when I stopped listening to my wife, I went into what was called polyphasic thinking. Polyphasic thinking is many, phasic, phases of thought. As a human being, you can talk or think about 4 things in your head while staring somebody in the eye and nodding your head. It's just something we can do. So polyphasic thinking is when the person that's supposed to listen goes into other thoughts and conversations with their mouth shut. When I talk to agents, I always say, rule number 1, whenever we do a presentation, is there's no arguing with your mouth shut. And they always laugh. And I go, as soon as you catch yourself arguing with your mouth shut, raise your hand, because we need to engage. So there is a little guy named Galileo from the 1600s, has a quote that goes, you can't teach a person anything. You can only help them discover it within themselves. So what does that really mean? What Galileo found out about communication in humans is that if you tell people things, they're not going to listen. And they're not going to listen because everybody has their own opinions, ideas, agendas, thoughts. Telling doesn't get the job done of communication, which is what most people do. We feature dump what we have on somebody and then wonder why they didn't hear us. So how do we cause polyphasic thinking? Please write these down. This is how you cause polyphasic thought. First is preaching. Preaching is where you talk longer than they get to talk, not allowing them to participate, i.e. my wife coming home and sharing her frustration. She didn't ask for my input. She just made me stand there and listen. And I went into polyphasic thought. The other one is bore them. Talk about something that doesn't matter. Man, they'll go off in their own thought in a heartbeat. This one's important. If you lose their trust, when you lose someone's trust, they're questioning what you say and having their own argument without you. Now, for us in the service industry, these two make a difference. We cross their belief system. This could be on a product or service that you're trying to get them to use, or a different way of going about what they're trying to accomplish. If it crosses what they think they should do, they'll start arguing with their mouth shut. You'll start to say something and I'll go, that can't be right. No, I'd never use that. That's stupid. Now, while I'm doing that, you're still talking and I'm not listening. And then the other one is do something or cross that's opposite their expectation. My expectation walking up to you is X and you go Y, I'm going to go off on polyphasic thinking. Now, that is what happens when we don't allow proper communication technique to happen. So how do we cure it? Well, it's cured by a really simple thing. First, ask more than you tell. Okay? Now I'm going to stop sharing again and talk about my wife. My wife came in and ranted at me. And by the way, I love her with all my heart in case she ever sees this recording. But my wife rants about the same darn thing. Anybody have that with your spouse or significant other? Same thing, you know? I'm like, do something about it. Stop telling me. So I get into this polyphasic thought, and then she goes, are you listening? Of course I am. No, you're not. Argument. Here's the problem, guys. Please write this down. The burden of listening is on the person talking, not the person receiving. The burden of listening is on the person talking, not the person listening. Because polyphasic thought is a human reaction to boredom, not being able to participate, crossing my belief system, crossing my expectation. That is not something that I choose voluntarily. So when people say, learn how to listen, it is physically impossible to stop your brain from polyphasic thought if the person talking uses poor communication technique. Now, if you ever find yourself in the situation again with your spouse or significant other, where they're ranting, poor communication technique, not letting you participate, and you go off in polyphasic thought, and they say, are you listening? And you go, no, and you're in trouble. I want you to say this to them next time. Say, honey is our significant other. No, I'm not listening to you, but it's not my fault. See, if you had better communication technique, I would have stayed with you. Now, I've never tried that with my wife. But if any of you want to try it and like call me back and tell me how well it worked, let me know. But that's the truth. The truth is, it's my wife's fault I didn't listen, not mine. So how do we cure this? I said, it's ask more than you tell. So let me give you another cool little thing here. If I want to communicate with my wife, I have to make sure it's bilateral, that she gets to participate, and that she has the interest. So I came home, I'm always on the road. I came home early one time, and I'm so excited to see my wife because I travel a lot, and I'm waiting for her to get home. I hear the garage door go up. I'm standing there right where she's going to come in the house. Both the cats are standing with me because they get excited when she comes home. And in walks my wife, and I start to tell her my rant, something I'm excited about. And my wife literally put her hand up and said, not now, and walked past me. What does that make you feel like at that moment? God, I was ticked off. As she headed to the bedroom, I turned around and I headed behind her, and I was about to give her a piece of my mind. And thank God my trainer brain kicked in and said, wait a minute, use communication technique. So when I got in the bedroom, I said, hey, hon, bad day? Now, I had something I wanted to say. I had something excited to share, but if I would have shared it, she wouldn't have what? Listened. She would have been in her own world. So I had to say, bad day? She goes, yeah. I said, tell me about it. Now, did I really care? No. But if I didn't say, tell me about it, I wouldn't have had communication. So I said, tell me about it. And she shared it with me. And I listened and waited because I knew I got to talk when she stopped. She stopped talking. I said, God, I'm sorry that happened. Then I asked her a question. I said, have you ever had one of those days where just everything goes right? And she goes, yeah. I said, I just had one of those days. And then her response was, tell me about it. See, I used communication technique to put her in the position to receive my story, not force my story on her. Ask more than you tell, and you'll gain their attention. Tell them to save time. Tell them to expedite. Tell them out of frustration. I've told you this before. It will continue to go on deaf ears. We have to be the masters of communication, especially where you sit. And that requires to ask more than you tell. So let me take you back to my slides. And I want to talk about the power of questions. Questions are amazing, folks. The reason we stop polyphasic thinking when our significant other goes, are you listening to me? Is because they went from ranting to asking a question. As soon as my wife goes, are you listening to me? That is a question, not a rant. And my brain wakes up because it's a question. I have to answer questions. So I stop polyphasic thinking. So the power of questions keeps people from polyphasic thinking. Now, sometimes we struggle with questions. Guys, it is completely acceptable for you to script questions. You know your scenarios. Agents come in with this problem. I tried to tell them, they don't listen. Questions. So Dan, before I get into what we can do here, share with me, what are some of the services you've already looked at? Share with me, have you gone through the resource center yet to see what's there? See, if I ask the questions instead of saying, well, that's on the resource center, or you should, they have to stop. The brain has to break polyphasic thought and go, no, I haven't gone there. Now, here's the wrong thing to do. Well, go get on the resource center and you'll find it, because they won't. The right thing to do is, this is after COVID, when you can be near people. Hey, come around the corner. Let me pull up the resource center right now. And then I have them do it with me. That is adult learning. They are engaged in doing it. Now, it takes me 4 times longer to do this, but I'll never have to do it again with that agent. They'll almost feel embarrassed to come to me and me go, come here, let me show you again. They'll go, I know how to do that. Well, then why aren't you doing it? But if I tell them and they don't listen and they leave and come back, I make my job harder. I make it harder because I didn't use questions, I used statements. But I script questions constantly, and I'm really good at this. I will write down questions for the simplest engagement, just so I will start off asking, not telling, so I can keep someone's attention instead of expedite the situation. So, write this one down. I call this rules of the game. Rules of the game is a technique for dealing with people that you want to keep control of and get them somewhere. So step 1 of rules of the game is don't stop talking without asking a question. So if you find yourself feature dumping or talking, end it with the question. Just make it end with a question. Well, the resource center would do that and this, and, if you would have done, and you know what? Have you been on the resource center? What did you use in the resource center? And I'm using that because I just know the resource center well. And then all of a sudden the person goes and gives an answer. Now, part 2 of rules of the game is critical. You can't move on until they answer the question you asked. Watch this. So what part of the resource center did you look at for this? Look, I'm really busy right now, and I just need to know. Guys, they didn't answer. By not answering means they're not listening still. By not listening means you're going to go through this crap again. So we have to have good communication technique. And this is not bad customer service. This is getting their problem solved. So you have to get the answer to your question before you're allowed to move on, or you'll just perpetuate the problem. So the cure to them not answering is to give empathy and ask it again. So if they change the subject on me and say, look, I'm just really busy right now and I just need to know, then I'll come back and say, you know what, Dan, I can appreciate how busy you are. I understand how difficult it is as an agent, but I'm trying to save you time by making sure you know what to do and not have to come to me all the time. So what on the system did you look at? I didn't look at anything. Okay, let's get on there and solve this problem. See, if I let them change the subject, look, I'm really too busy, and I go, okay, I'll email you this, or I'm going to send this, or let me do this for you real quick. What you did is you didn't use adult learning in Galileo. You expedited the solution for them to come back and ask the same problem again. So when we improve our communication technique, we're not being mean. We have to be empathetic and share that I'm doing this to help you be more effective in your life. I'm doing this so you can do more transactions. So work with me here. What did you find here? How did you do this? What happened there? And they'll go, okay. And they'll start sharing with you those things. I got one more little statement for you that I use all the time with people in all industries. And I would write it down. Treatment before diagnosis is malpractice. Treatment before diagnosis is malpractice. What that means is that if you go into a solution before you've asked discovery questions, you are making some assumptions. So you are now treating me before you understood exactly what happened, what I did, what I didn't do. In the medical field, we'd be sued for that. But I find in business, in all industries, we violate that all the time. And it's to expedite things. Treatment before diagnosis is malpractice. I need to understand what you've done, understand where you are, so I give you the right treatment so you can go make more money, have an easier life, a smoother transaction, a faster sale. These are the keys that the agent is looking for. So if I can tie everything I do to helping them generate more money, make the transaction smoother, easier, faster, create more opportunity, they can't get upset with me. They have to take a deep breath and go, you're right. Okay, what do I need to know? And all of a sudden you've trained them on something that they'll never come back and do again or ask again because they'll feel empowered. So I told Carrie I'd leave 5 minutes for questions. So you guys have to have questions now because I have 5 minutes. If you don't ask questions, I'll sing, and you don't want that. Talk to me, guys. 33 years doing this, building my own support team. I can be of some help.
Who's got a question for Dan? Who's had a difficult agent lately and you just wasn't sure how to handle it?
Probably is everybody, right?
Well, pretty much.
Hey,
Tracy's got her hand up.
Nicole, if Nicole wants to talk really quick.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Hi, everyone. I'm from Rockford in Michigan because I know
Hey.
everyone all over the place is here. So I want to say hi to all the people I'm really jealous of in the Virgin Islands. Anyway, so I have an agent and I love her very much. She's very great, but she has I want to say a refusal to learn.
Okay.
And I guess it's just, I guess a lot of it is stuff you already went over, the like ask again and don't let them not answer your questions, but somebody who you can go through a process and show them the process several times over again and then just still, I guess, repeats the process, I guess keeps asking the same things and doesn't understand the same things. And
Okay, so I got a couple questions for you, Nicole.
okay.
One, when you go through the process, are you telling them the process and doing it, or are you having them do it and answering their questions while they do it?
Generally, I am showing them.
There you go. So you're telling, not interacting. That's why they don't learn, okay? Now, for someone like that, guys, I had the number 2 agent in our board in Orlando. I know prima donna attitudes. I love them, but we have to manage them. So here's a question you can ask this person. If there was a way to increase your productivity and free up some of your time, would you be interested? That is a question as well, guys. Now, Nicole, if she says yes, say, I need 30 minutes on your calendar when you can be uninterrupted. When can we do that? Now, what you're doing is making a professional appointment with somebody that is really busy, whether they're really busy or just out of control, doesn't matter. And then now you can go and through questions and adult learning, walk them through. But again, I'm going to give her the caveat. If you'll let me do this with you, you'll gain capacity. It will make your life better. Don't resist me. Let me help you here. That's why you ask for the appointment time instead of in between urgencies when they come to us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's it.
So
I don't know why I didn't think of that. Thank you.
That's how I would approach that. Anybody else? Come on.
I know most of you guys, and you're not shy people, so let's go here. Who's got one?
I don't bite or anything.
I'm just coming over here in Port St. Lucie, Florida.
Hello.
What about the agent that I'm too busy? No matter how she tried to get that appointment with the agent, she's too busy. Now, granted, she's probably never want to do in her office, but she doesn't have the time. How do I get her to have this time?
Okay, that broke up on me.
Oh,
Did anyone hear?
Yeah, it's the agent was saying that she's just too busy. She doesn't have time. She's too busy.
Okay. When they're too busy, guys, I go back to my question. So I give you another question. They said, look, I'm just too busy. I would come back and say, I'm going to mute you so it doesn't feedback there. I would say I would ask them, I would say, but how much time do you think we waste doing it this way? Guys, I was a narc, man. I had questions galore. I'm not expecting you to have questions off the top of your head. This is why when you have those moments, sit down and think of the scenarios and start writing questions. Remember, it's about time, opportunity, smoothness, speed, money. All I got to do is ask a question around that. Say, I understand you're too busy for this, but how much time do you think we waste not getting you there, or not allowing me to get you more competent, more understanding of the system? Now, I'll tell you another little trick that I gave my support staff. When agents had their own support person, I always told my support staff, immediately call that support person and ask for an appointment with them. And this just helped my team, because I said, if you get to the support person, if they're any kind of an administrator, you'll get along with them and you can teach them how to use the system. Then they can be that buffer. Now, this is just for people that have someone. So every time my people would bring someone on to assist with what we were doing, they would end up having their assistant do what we already do for them, which was a waste. So I had my assistants jump in and say, hey, let's have a meeting and taught them how to use the power of our company. And all of a sudden that assistant started using us and adding on and managing the agent instead of us having more of a challenge. So there's always a way to get to a better result here, guys. What else might I be able to help you with? Oh, any suggestions on agents during our virtual office meetings? When you do a virtual office meeting, folks, if you have more than one person, it's hard to use Galileo for the individual challenges because they'll be afraid to admit to them, and we don't want to embarrass them. So if I'm going to do anything in a virtual meeting, I might ask this. If I get a time in my virtual meeting with my leader or my manager or my state president, I'll say, guys, for the month of November, I've looked back at everybody's productivity and I found that this is a challenge, and I've come up with some solutions. Anyone interested in those solutions, can you reach out to me? I'm going to do a little thing on it for you. And what will happen is we start with a benefit. Hey, I noticed this is a challenge, so I have some solutions to fix that. Would anybody be interested in learning about that? You might get 2, 1, 5. But what you just did again is deliver a service, bring them closer to the winning differences and solutions of Schmidt family of companies, but also probably push that person off from bothering you for a while. So that's another way of engaging. Anyone else?
I just have a quick question. So we all, we're all here to support. I mean, our values of servant leadership. But but how do you deal with an agent that comes to you constantly asking, can you do my job? Basically, the rest of you do your job, right? And you're going to get your own work done.
Okay, give me a thumbs up if, hang on, mute you so it doesn't feedback. Give me a thumbs up if I'm right here. They're coming and asking you to do a job that's theirs that you're not normally doing. Is that what you were getting at? Okay. Go to your leader. Now, and guys, this is cultural. So I'm giving an opinion. Everybody understands what an opinion is. Talk with Carrie, talk with the leadership. But what I found was if I didn't give my administrative team the permission to say no to things outside of the scope of their work, I messed up the system. So when someone asked for something outside of what we provided, I gave them permission to say, I'm sorry, Dan or Mike or Greg, my VPs, told us we're not allowed to do that. If you want that service, they told me to go see them. And what happened was the agent knew that it was a service outside of the scope of work. They were trying to leverage my staff. So we didn't say, you can't get it. We just said you had to go to Dan or Mike or Greg to get it. And then the agent didn't go. Because they knew if they showed up at my door and go, hey, I couldn't get Laureen to do this for me. I'll go, is that on the menu of services? And well, no. Do you use the menu of services? Yes. Well, then we do the menu of services to free you up to be able to do those few things that we're not doing for you. And they're like, well, I just thought she could have, take a little time. And then I'd go, well, if she took a little time for you, she'd have to take a little time for 70 people, and then she wouldn't be able to do the things we promised. But that's not your job as an administrator. And again, Carrie, I'm not trying to start anything here, but that's a cultural conversation, and it's a leadership thing to determine whether or not that is a direction. But I just found in our company that without that permission, I put an administrator in the position of feeling I should keep the agent happy, but it's not in my scope of work. How do I deal with this? So have that conversation intimately with your leaders, with Carrie, and come up with a policy that everyone, and the leaders have to be on board, because the leaders, drop the ball on us. And by the way, I'm talking to the VPs at the end of the day. I'll bring this up to them, or the regional VPs. I'll bring this up to them. But if the leadership backs up the administration saying that, then they go to the agent and go, God, we're doing all this for you to free you up better than any company in the marketplace. Why are you doing this? And then the agent goes, okay. I never had a problem when we did it, because they didn't want to come to me and hear that story. They just went about their way. But if they can get you to do it, now you've broke the ice, and now they expect it every time. Then the next agent goes, why does Dan get this service and I don't? And we start to create what I call an uneven playing field. Anyone else?
There was a question in the chat box that says, how do you deal with a Debbie Downer and nothing goes right for that agent, and the same agent doesn't want anything to do with our technology and doesn't embrace our tools?
Okay, that one I refer to a leader. That's not an administrator's problem, guys. That is a one-on-one leadership challenge. So I would just go, Debbie Downer, I understand, just understand we're here for you to try to make your life easier. I hope that we can help you. Just let me know. And they'll walk off with their downer attitude. And then you call me and you go, hey, Dan, Debbie Downer did it again. And it's my job to grab her, sit her down, have a one-on-one. It's not yours. So again, we got to clarify those duties. Anyone else?
Anything else for Dan, you guys?
So here's my question to you then. Did I help you a little bit? Did I give you a few tools to use to help you out? Yes? Yes? Okay.
Thumbs up, guys. Type a yes, whatever you want to do. Shake your head. Yes.
Do not hesitate to reach out to Carrie, because I'm engaged with your company. So if there's something I can do to help you as well, I will. As we get back to traveling around, I get up to Michigan, I'm in Florida. As I get traveling around, I'm going to pop in on you guys, because I want to meet you in person. So don't be surprised when we're through COVID, you don't see Dan pop into your world and go, what's up? Okay?